Great weekend. Um, Another awesome NFL week in the books. I know we still got Monday left, but nonetheless, it was a great weekend. Let's get right to it. All right. So we got Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. And this was actually, uh, first of all, a lot of the games this week were entertaining. But what a game this was. We got pretty much two teams seeing who can not mess up. Keep in mind, I said not mess up in order to win the division, as opposed to, oh, I want to play well and win the division. They just gotta not screw it up. Pittsburgh actually played well, like they care about the playoffs. There was a controversial call that I'm sure most people are talking about, and that's the Isaiah Likely touchdown catch. I would call that a catch, but they reversed it and they ended up turning the ball over on downs. And you can say that cost them the game. I mean, look at the final score, 27-22. 13 first downs. Baltimore had 22 first downs. Passing yards was about even, 284 to 203. The rushing yards, Baltimore completely destroyed them in rushing. But, that's just how it goes. They had some turnovers. Lamar threw an interception. And also, he was struggling a lot the whole first half. He didn't really punch it in until the end of the second quarter. So, a lot of things going on, and the Ravens are slowly fading away. The crazy part is they won 5 straight when Lamar came back. But they lost 2 back-to-back divisional games. One to the Bengals last week and now to the Steelers. And it just looks like they're slowly fading out of having that division lead. So, congratulations to the Steelers. Now everybody, as Aaron Rodgers said, could shut up for a week. I still think that, Tomlin ran his course. Maybe he's been there 19 years. Maybe give him one more year just to say he made it to 20. But he's did great for the organization. But I know a lot of people are tired of, oh, let's make the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, boom, we stink. So we get an early exit. It's they want to make a deep playoff run. And that's always a peculiar position, because do you want to fire a coach that's always taking to the playoffs, roll the dice, and risk getting a new coach who messes everything up, and you lose badly for like 3 or 4 years, and then you end up having a Super Bowl run? The Roonies are in a tough spot, but I know a lot of people are over Tomlin, unfortunately, because he's been winning consistently. But sometimes, same with the Patriots, it's and Bill Belichick. I mean, I guess that's not a great example, but sometimes, you just need to change the scenery. It'll be interesting to see how that goes out. A lot of people say they should part ways. I think maybe give them one more year, but at the end of the day, they're ahead of their conference. I think now they're about 2 games up. So, they just got to keep winning out. And maybe if they have a deep playoff runs, Tomlin might get an extension. No, I don't know. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. They're still very inconsistent, and at least this week they did what they had to do to win. All right. Speaking of division rivals, we got, well, of that division, the Bengals. We have the AFC North Bengals versus the AFC East Buffalo Bills. Let's see. This is exactly what I expected it to be. I knew it was going to be a shootout. I knew that both of their defenses are suspect. At the end of the day, this was 2 top-tier quarterbacks doing what they had to do to win the game. And at the end of the day, This is something you don't hear often. Joe Burrow threw 2 interceptions, and they were pivotal interceptions. They completely cost them the game. Are we used to hearing that? I mean, obviously, in my opinion, Burrow is absolutely top 3 quarterback in the league. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he's coming back from injury, and you can't be perfect every week. He threw 2 interceptions that cost him the game, and Josh Allen did what he had to do. Keep in mind, Joe Burrow threw 4 touchdown passes. But Josh Allen, he threw 3, and he even ran one in for a score, which was a crazy 40-yard run in the snow. I mean, that was crazy. So, the Bills, they're making their stride. Look at the score, 34-39. 25 first downs to the Bills, 22. 276 passing yards to the Bills, 233. 62 rushing yards where the Bills dominated, 183. And, of course, those 2 turnovers that Burrow committed. I mean, this was a shootout. But, as I said about the Bills, their defense is always going to be suspect. When you face a good quarterback and you're giving up 30-plus points, how heavily can you rely on the run game of Cook and Josh Allen, So because their defense is suspect, that could be their Achilles heel walking into the AFC. But now that the Chiefs are out, which we're going to talk about that later, this is going to be a tight race for the title. I mean, there's just so many teams in the AFC that are up and coming. Denver, New England, Houston. Again, we're going to talk about that later. So, now when you can officially say, I mean, listen, it ain't over till it's over, but when you can officially rule the Chiefs out, that leaves the AFC wide open. I know the Broncos and the Pats they have the best records, but they're still a young team. And obviously, if I had them going against the Bills in any type of playoff matchup, I'm going to go for the Bills. So this could be the Bills' year, but they got to work on that defense. They really have to work on that defense. The Ravens are going to be out. The Bengals are going to be out. All the usual suspects, the Chiefs. So it's going to be Bills versus all the young, hot, up-and-coming teams, with the exception of Pittsburgh. I mean, this is going to be a crazy, crazy week. I mean, a crazy playoff scenario. So, we'll see about that. All right. Here's the game that I was looking forward to the most. Tennessee versus Cleveland. The battle of the rookies. Shedeur Sanders versus Cam Ward. We knew that Shedeur was facing a sorry Tennessee defense. Well, who's played sorry for the whole year. And I knew Ward was facing Myles Garrett and supposedly Cleveland's number 1 run defense. I thought Ward was going to struggle. He kind of did. He didn't throw that many yards, but he won when they needed it. He threw a couple touchdown passes. And I thought Cleveland would stuff the run. So I was like, you can't really give a fair assessment if Shedeur lights it up and then Ward all of a sudden does well. Whatever. Guess what? Shedeur didn't just light it up. He was dropping dimes. I mean, he was just teardropping them balls, like making perfect throws. He did have that ill-advised interception. Sometimes you just get too comfortable and you make dumb plays. It is what it is. He's still a rookie. But aside from that interception, which you could say cost him the game, he was throwing money balls. I mean, they were so accurate. And I'm not on the Shedeur bandwagon. As you guys seen in my previous episodes, I said this was a weak draft class, and these are, I don't think these are generational quarterbacks. But you got to give them a fair chance. So I think Shedeur proved that he's the real deal. 364 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, this was incredible. How many rushing yards did he have? He even ran it in for 1. If you see the man running the ball, I'm like, is this Shedeur? Let me see. How many rushing? 3 for 29. long 14-yarder and a touchdown. I mean, he was moving the ball, okay? So, you got to give them their props. And here's the thing about Tennessee. Why don't you play like this all year? This was their Super Bowl. I mean, they were playing, their defense was playing spirited. Their offense was playing spirited. I mean, they acted like they really wanted to win. Why didn't you do that all year? Why? You just cared about facing Shedeur, huh? That's all you cared about? If they'd have played like this, they put up 31 points. They're rushing. Pollard had 2 touchdowns the whole year. Then all of a sudden, against Cleveland's number one, arguably the best run defense, he puts up 160 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. I mean, that wasn't supposed to happen. You wipe out 2 of those touchdowns, and it's another regular Tennessee team. And I don't know why Cleveland's defense decided to not do much. I don't know why. How did they let that happen? And I guess you can't. I mean, every defense deserves a bad day, I guess. Myles Garrett got his sack, but aside from Cleveland's defense not doing what they're supposed to do, I'm not throwing them under the bus. They just had a bad game. Stefanski, with the ability to tie the game, went for it on 2. Went for 2, I mean. And he took Shedeur out of the game. I think he took Shedeur out of the game the second attempt. Why would you do that? Why would you even go for 2? You could have tied the game. Maybe he's just playing for everything. He just wants to doesn't care. He knows the season's over. He's already seen enough with Shedeur, which hopefully that's enough to make him your starter. Again, I know Tennessee is not the best team, but Tennessee played very well this year. So, I mean, this week, for some reason, why did you go for 2? I'm scratching my head. I'm watching the game like, did I miss something? Why would you go for 2 when you could have just tied it up? And then that put them in a hole. They scored again, thanks to Shedeur, and they had to go for 2 again. Nothing, And this is from a 2-time coach of the year. The way he's handled this season has just been terrible. I think he needs to get fired, but obviously he did well with the Browns for a while. Not well, but he's shown progress. He had them 11 wins one year, 2-time coach of the year, one 2020, one in 2023. It'd be weird to fire him after this one season, but he's been making some very bad decisions with the pushing of Dillon, the way he's been treating Shedeur, the calls he's been making. Why would you go for it on 2? It just doesn't make sense what he's trying to do this year. Maybe he's just got too much outside noise and he's not managing it well, but this season is definitely eyebrow raising for Stefanski. So I don't think they're going to fire him, but he's definitely going to be on the hot seat next year if he doesn't turn this around. So great game for Shedeur. Ward, he acted like he won a Super Bowl. I mean, they had their little banter at the beginning of the year. He wanted to upstage him, but in my opinion, they won the game, but Shedeur's absolutely upstaged Ward. And that goes to what I'm saying. They should have gone 1 and 2. I wouldn't care if Ward was 1 and Shedeur was 2, or Shedeur was 1 and Ward was 2. They're the best quarterbacks in a somewhat, weak quarterback draft. I mean, obviously you had Jackson Dart doing what he did. He's a great quarterback. He's hurt a lot, but, I feel like these 3 young guys could play well for years to come. And hopefully next year, Shedeur can get the same shot that Ward got and let him start the full year. Let him get all the BS out the way and start a full year. And I'd like to see him, Dart, and Ward, see how they do next year. So, all right. Who do I got next? Oh, this is a sad one. Indianapolis Colts versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. First of all, it's not sad for the Jags because they just overtaken the AFC South. They just won their division pretty much. And I feel like now you got the Texans creeping on their behind. That's going to be a nice little, you know, showdown for that division or whatever to see who wins that one. But at the end of the day, wow, what a change of events. Sad day for Daniel Jones. They already had lost every game since their bye, and now Jones, who was already playing with a broken fibula in his left leg, ended up tearing his Achilles in his right leg. Without their starting quarterback, they're back to an average rebuilding team. You know, I don't know what they're going to do with Richardson. I don't know the whole story with that. I should have had that information in front of me, but Daniel Jones turned that whole team around, and he was on a 1-year deal. If I'm the Colts, I bring him back next year to really see if he was the real deal, because I had doubts about him, wondering if he could maintain that level of dominance in the playoffs. I knew they were going to the playoffs. Excuse me. Gotta love this hazelnut coffee. Shout out to Lion Coffee. Anyway, but I had an eye on them because I was like, we already seen Daniel Jones. He wasn't that great in his stint with the Pats, but he turned it around in the Colts. Can he sustain this? They started to slip, and now he gets hurt. So he never really had a real opportunity to prove himself. Obviously, I would bring him back because Richardson hasn't done well. And I don't know. And obviously, they've given up on Richardson. I don't know. But this is sad. This is sad. I pretty much don't even think the Colts are going to do any damage now. I've given up on them. I mean, it'd be nice to see them prove me wrong, but the way things have been going, it's going to be Jacksonville and Houston overtaking that division between those two. So, I mean, the numbers here kind of don't matter. I mean, the Jags, they put up 36 points. Trevor Lawrence threw 2 touchdowns. Etienne ran for a touchdown, so 1936 for the final score, 18 first downs for the Jag, 247 yards passing, 103 rushing yards, and only 1 turnover to the Colts' 3 turnovers. So they actually put in Ray Leonard. He threw for 145 passing yards with 1 interception, whatever. But who knows what direction the Colts are going to do to try to save their season, but they're pretty much done. They're pretty much done, especially in this crowded division with the Jags and the Texans. So don't want to sound like a broken record. Sad day for the Colts. Congratulations to the Jags. They are going to I think they're going to win the AFC South. Houston has a remarkable defense, but I think, the Jags, they're a game in front. All they got to do is win out, and they're good. So, but that remains to be seen. Again, another crowded division. So, all right. Who do I have next? Oh, boy. I haven't done my sound effects. I haven't done my sound effects today. So let me do that because this is not okay. This is not okay. And actually, I think the Funeral March, they put a copyright claim on it. I'm like, damn, I can't play a sound effect without getting a copyright claim. So let me do this. I'm sorry, Washington. They are done for the year. They have been done for the year. But now they are done. And what did I tell you? Did I not tell you? First of all, I kept saying 3 games left in the season, but we had 5 games left in the season. Whatever, the last 2 or whatever games. Was it worth putting Daniels in there? Should you have benched him? Should you have rested him a little bit and let him close out the year with a couple games? There's literally no playoff implications on the line. We already know he's a fragile quarterback. What was the point? What was the purpose? What was the purpose of putting him in there? And guess what? He re-aggravated that same arm. So I was up in the air. I didn't know what to do. It's really a lose-lose situation for the Redskins. You can't really blame that on the coach. I would have sat him, but can you imagine if you sat him for the last 5 games and everybody's pissed off, the season ticket holders, all that? They want to see Jaden Daniels play. Now the question is, do you shut him down for the rest of the year? That question is going to linger for a while. Obviously, I wouldn't play him next week. I would let him rest next week for sure. But there'll be 3 games left. Do you play him? Us Commander fans, we love Jaden Daniels. So I'm torn too. What do you do? What do you do? We'll see. We'll see what Quinn does. You got but the bigger issue is our defense is very inconsistent. And that's why I wouldn't want Quinn back next year. He's great with the quarterbacks. He developed Matty Ice out there in Atlanta. Matt Ryan, of course, for those that don't know. He's good. And I think he's pivotal in Daniel's success. But overall, as a coach, he's not doing okay. He's not doing that great. We literally went to the NFC title game because of Daniels. And this goes to show how important a quarterback is. Because without your quarterback, you're nothing. You're nothing. Belichick knows that. And Quinn is finding that out too. So I say Tomlin and the Steelers mutually part ways, and you bring him over to Washington. That's just what I'm saying. Hold on. Give us Tomlin. So we'll see what happens with that, but our season is done, and I'm just hoping Daniels can stay healthy. So, we're not even going to talk about the Vikings. Yeah, they pretty much dominated on every facet of the game, and I give J.J. McCarthy a hard time. I just don't see him being a long-term future there. I think he was the I don't want to be too harsh, but he was the worst quarterback coming out of this year's draft. And you can probably give that to Penix too, but Penix is very talented. He's just injury prone. J.J. McCarthy, you don't know who's going to show up, whether he's healthy or injured. You don't know who's going to show up. So, but he did well this year. This game, of course, against my team. So whatever. I said Washington versus Cleveland Browns. That is a mess up. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not even going to correct it. It is what it is. You can't get everything perfect. So, but yeah. Washington versus the Vikings. Unfortunately, the Vikings shut them out after being shut out last week. The Seahawks shut out the Vikings last week. Now they come and shut out the Commanders. What are you doing? And actually, you know what? That is irking my undiagnosed OCD. So let me correct that real quick. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to correct it. Forget it. That game was whack anyway. So on to the next. All right, who do we got now? Another, whatever game. This game doesn't matter. The funny thing is, this is not funny. This is actually sad. The Dolphins have just as much wins as the Chiefs. The Dolphins have just as many wins as the Chiefs. That makes absolutely no sense. So, Tua did absolutely nothing. They didn't need him. They just ran over the Jets. They had 239 rushing yards total, and Jalen Wright, he had 107 yards with 1 touchdown, and Achani added 92 yards in the score. So even Gordon got in with a touchdown run. So the Dolphins ran all over the Jets. The Jets continue to disappoint this year. Tua had a subpar game. This is what you expected from both teams. I didn't expect the Dolphins to blow them out, but they ran all over them, And as much as the NFL tries to make this entertaining in a passing league, right? A pass-friendly league. We're seeing how important the run game is. Just look at the Tennessee versus Cleveland game, and now look at this game. And look at how the Eagles are struggling because Barkley's not doing that great this year. Same with the Ravens, right? And guess what? You got the Bills, they're winning because they got Josh Allen running it in all the time, even though he's throwing touchdown passes. But anyway, I know now I got a little distracted, but at the end of the day, the running game always matters. And the wins start with the defense and the run game. So, unless, of course, you got Patrick Mahomes. But, man, we'll talk about that later. So, but, useless game for both teams. The question now is, well, I guess it's not a question now. Since the Dolphins are 6-7, that means McDaniels will finish the rest of the season without getting fired. But you better believe, soon as the clock ticks and the season is done, Daniels is out of there. Obviously, they can't do that with Tua because they invested so much money into him, so they might let him linger around for one more year. And with this 6-7 record, they're not even really battling for the top draft pick. So what quarterback could they even pick up? So who knows what's going to happen with that? But both of these franchises are in a whole pool of what. So, all right. Now, who do we got next? We got the NO versus the Bucks. This makes absolutely no sense. Okay, this is why it's any given Sunday. Why on earth is the Bucks, who are fighting to win their division because you got Carolina Panthers of all teams knocking on their heels, why would they lose to the Saints? This is a head scratcher. If you guys know, we had Mayfield up there in the MVP race. Now he's out of there. He didn't do that great. And they're going to lose their division to the Panthers? Keep in mind, they faced them in Week 16 and Week 18. So why would they lose to the Saints? What are you doing? What are you doing? Todd Bowles, man. What are you doing, bro? Mayfield's stats were whatever. 14 to 30, 122 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Tyler Show, I mean, he put on a show, pun intended, but this makes no sense. I mean, his passing numbers were bad too, 144 yards with 1 interception. He did make some crucial throws, and he ran for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns, which that changed the whole dynamics of the game. Was his ground game, Tyler Show. But this just makes no sense. Every time you want to give Mayfield his flowers and you want to say, oh, he can really take a team and he can prove why he's a number 1 draft pick. And I don't want to put this all on Mayfield. Just the Bucs in general. Since Brady left, they just can't get past that hump. And they had no business losing to the Saints. I don't want to write them off completely. I still think they're a playoff team. But they've been brought down to earth. And, I'm going to be shocked if the Panthers win the division. Are they tied? Let me see. They're both 7-6. All the Bucs had to do was win the Saints. Beat the Saints. That's all they had to do. That's literally all they had to do. So, again, this is a head scratcher, but it's any given Sunday. You can never. Good thing I don't gamble, man, because I would have bet the house on the Bucs. Good, man. I feel bad for you bettors out there, boy. Let me tell you, because you don't know who's going to show up. So, anyway, enough of that. Good game for the Saints. Bucs, y'all got to get it together. And now we have the Denver Broncos versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Another game that everybody could have called. You could have won some money on. Denver's the far superior team. I did kind of think they would they would have blown them out more. 17-24. They kind of kept it in the mix. Uh, Bo Nix, he did what he had to do. Um, he only threw for what, 212 yards, but of course he ran it in for a score. The thing about Nix is, and the thing about the Denver offense as a whole, they're going to do whatever they got to do to win. But and Peyton specifically picked Nix because of his situational passing, his situational plays, his completion percentage in college. He knows how to throw and make plays when it matters. And Peyton did all right. Again, I was giving Peyton a hard time for how he treated Russ. Russ, he turned it around. He started playing well, but Peyton obviously didn't like him. But we can't complain about him right now. He got Nix in there. Nix is a winner. And it doesn't matter about the stats. He's going to win. Even games like this where they probably should have blown out the Raiders, it is what it is. The Raiders are always, now they're playing with their backs against the wall. They know they don't have a playoff chance. Carroll's probably playing for his job. Geno's playing for his job, which he got hurt, by the way. And, with these dangerous 2-11, 3-10 teams, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. They could just turn it up in a second. So just out of pure frustration and wanting to be a spoiler, which, there's nothing the Raiders could have done to spoil the Broncos. But anyway, Nix is a winner. Denver's defense is incredible, as always. And this is, I can't wait to see how this young team is going to perform in the playoffs, right? So, and as far as the Raider goes, I've been saying it all year. Pete Carroll, this experiment is not working. And the question is, first of all, I already know you're going to bench Geno. Get him out of there. He's not the future. Sorry, Geno. I really appreciate your comeback story with Seattle, how you came out, how you waited patiently and got yourself together. You're not the future for the Raiders. I don't even know why the Raiders chased you and pursued you like you were a top-tier quarterback. Gave you all that money. They didn't give you Josh Allen money, but we already know what we're getting with Geno. And Pete Carroll is I don't want to talk bad about him, but why did you ride the final years of your coaching career, because he is the oldest coach in the league, and banked it on Geno Smith? But they're 2-11. They could battle for the top pick of the draft, get him a quarterback in the first round at the very least, and see what happens. But with Carroll's age being it is, do you really want to go through the rebuild phase with Carroll? This is just bad management by the Raiders altogether. I guess they thought the Raiders were a win-now team with Geno Smith. That's why they bought in Carroll. They thought, they known each other from before. This is work. Horrible assessment. I just feel like, they had no business pursuing Geno, especially with the older coach. And they shouldn't even have hired Carroll. They should have probably put Carroll somewhere else where they kind of have all the pieces in place. Maybe Pittsburgh, if Tomlin has to get out of there. I don't know. But this is just a mess up. And they shouldn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get Carroll out of there and start somewhere new. They definitely got to get Geno out of there, But again, I don't know how much you can get out of Carroll, him being his age. Like, how many years can you get out of him to turn a program around? Maybe he can turn them around and groom some offensive coordinator genius. I don't know. But the Raiders, are going to Raiders. So it is what it is. All right. Here is probably the most important game of the week. Number 1 at the time, Bears, versus number 2, NFC North showdown. Right? I got the Packers coming out of the North regardless. I already knew they were a superior team. The Bears are just kind of like surprising everybody this year. We knew they would be okay, but I didn't expect them to be competing for the reins of the division, right? But for this game, I knew that their youth would eventually show. First of all, Caleb Williams he's played excellent this year. He doesn't blow you out the water with stats, but he makes plays on the ground and through the air when needed. And that's why the Bears are 9-4. Also because of their defense. But when you face a Super Bowl contender, Green Bay Packers, you got to give the edge to the Packers. And this is exactly what we expected. 21-28 for the final score. 21 first downs for the Bears, 17 for the Packers. 177 passing yards versus the Bears versus 220 for the Packers. 138 rushing yards for the Bears versus 117 for the Packers, right? And Love did what he's supposed to do. He had a great game. He threw 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. And they looked like the balanced team who I picked to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. They're looking like how they're supposed to. They won a game that mattered. They beat their division rival, which I thought it was going to be the Lions. But it ended up being the Bears. And at the end of the day, it's going to be Green Bay and the Rams in the NFC Championship game. I bailed out about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I said I'm going to choose the Rams now. I'm going to live with that pick. I'm going to stick with that. But it will be Green Bay versus the Rams competing in the NFC Championship game, in my opinion. And so they did what they had to do. And the Bears still are doing. They're going to go to the playoffs too. Maybe they might meet up again. But at the end of the day, Love did what he had to do. Parsons put a lot of pressure. He did what he had to do. And everybody showed up the way they were supposed to for the Packers. So, speaking of the Rams, man, oh man, what did you expect? You think they were going to just come back after getting beat up by the Panthers? You think they were just going to let it slide against the Cardinals, who are done? I knew Stafford was going to have a bounce back game because he's the reason why they lost last week. But of course, you can't play perfect every game, just like you can't play perfect every game. But, this was the perfect team to sharpen their iron for Stafford to get back on track. I mean, let's pull up these numbers here. Stafford again, 281 yards, 3 touchdowns. Blake Corum, number 22, ran for 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua got 2 reception touchdowns. They just had their way with the Cardinals, right? And the funny thing is, even Williams got in on it. Kyren Williams, 84 yards and a touchdown. By the way, I think it's funny that they're both number 22 and 23. Corum is 22 and Williams is 23. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. But at the end of the day, they had their way. 249 rushing yards versus the Cardinals 51. But anyway, let's go in the numbers. 45-3, 30 first downs for the Rams versus 17 for the Cardinals. 281 passing yards versus 263. 249 rushing yards versus 51. And 1 turnover. Kyler Murray's not that guy. I already did a whole segment about that. I'm not going to keep bashing him. And the Cardinals are going to Cardinal. The question is, should you keep Brissett? I mean, he's playing okay. I mean, it's not about if you want to keep Brissett. It's about if you want to keep Kyler Murray. What are you going to do next year? Are you going to promote Brissett to the starting position and then just use Murray as a backup? That would be a financial disaster. But I think Murray is almost at the end of his contract anyway. But the Cardinals got a lot of questions at the end of the year, which they've been bad for a while. So, and it all starts with the quarterback, unfortunately. So maybe they're fighting for a first round pick. They're 3-10. So, and of course the Rams are 10-3, whom lead the NFC as a whole, number 1 in the whole NFC. So, they're marching through to the playoffs. And Stafford and McVay, they're just a great 1-2 punch combo. Their defense just needs to hold like they've been holding. And Aaron Donald, you should have stayed one more year. So, yeah. But the Cardinals, man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It is what it is. And last but not least, oh boy, this is another one. Goodbye to my Super Bowl pick. The Texans, who now all of a sudden, are in contention for the AFC South. Completely, I'm not going to say dominated the Chiefs, but they let them know who's in charge. I know one of the players was crying about how they lost in the playoffs last year. Everybody expected the Chiefs to win in the playoffs last year against the Texans. No one thought the Texans would win, but in their mind, they thought they would. And they proved it this year. They proved it. 20-10. Let me pull up the numbers. C.J. Stroud did all right. 203 yards, 1 touchdown. Patrick Mahomes. Okay, first, before I get the individual stats, let's read the stats. 20-10. 14 first downs for the Texans, 15 first downs for the Chiefs. 186 passing yards for the Texans versus 148 for the Chiefs. 82 rushing yards versus the Chiefs, 126. And 3 turnovers, all by Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes threw for 160 yards and 3 interceptions. But, and I'm not making excuses for the baby GOAT, because I still think Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT. Right? I still think he is the GOAT. I mean, not the GOAT, the best quarterback in the league for years to come. Nothing in yesterday's game or this season made me doubt that, because he made some remarkable plays last night as well. The way he can throw it, his accuracy, the way he can escape the pocket, the way he can run, he is the best in the league. But he just had an off year. And they had some serious drops. Rashee Rice dropped a crucial 4th down play. It hit him in the face mask. And let's not talk about, with the game on the line, the final drive of the game, what happened with Kelce. He dropped the first pass, dropped it right in his hands. In the second pass, he was bobbling it, boom, and they picked it off, and that's how they're able to get that field goal. It led directly to a score. Drops have led directly to a turnover on downs. They had so many drops. They had 6 drops. Hold on, let me see. Let me pull up some. I got so many numbers here, and I'm getting better, y'all. But six drops. And when it mattered, on 3rd or 4th down, when they needed to convert, they were 3 of 10. Yes, Pat had some mixed cues, but his receivers failed him this game. And the real issue is, overall, the Chiefs had made a playoff run for probably like the last 6 years. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but they've been making deep playoff runs every single year, and they've made it to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. I think even 3. They're always in the mix. So maybe they're just tired of having these extended seasons, and maybe they just burnt out. Maybe they just need a break. I don't think the dynasty's over at all. It's a lot of commentators saying, oh, it's over. I just think they need a break. I think they got to get better on offense. And keep in mind, they had 3 offensive linemen out And in the first play of the game, their fourth one went down with injury. You're not going to win without an offensive line. 3 starting offensive linemen out. But I know it makes great for TV. People want to say the dynasty's over. Oh, they got to be dramatic. They got to get views. That's why I like having my own channel. I would love the views, but I'm not going to completely say the Chiefs dynasty is over. Because as long as they have what I call the 3-headed monster, which is what I've been saying since I started this channel 2 years ago. Well, actually, I started it last season, very sporadic, whatever. That's beside the point. As long as they have Spagnuolo, Reed, and Mahomes, they're always going to be in the mix. They're always going to be in the mix. Not only they're going to be in the mix, they're always going to be dominating the AFC. In my opinion, I just think they're tired. They've had the longest season every year for like 4 or 5 years in a row compared to all the other teams. They need a break. Now they have a full off season. I mean, the season, it ain't over till it's over, but I'm writing them off. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So RIP to my Super Bowl pick. I had them and the Rams in the Super Bowl. Guess not. But now this keeps the AFC wide open because you got 2 young hot teams with Denver and the Pats, and then you got the tried and true Buffalo Bills up there, and now you got Pittsburgh winning their division. Now you got Jacksonville trying to make a claim and Houston doing what they do. This is a very crowded AFC. Anything could happen now that the Chiefs are pretty much 95% out of the playoffs. But the dynasty is not over. As long as they have the 3-headed monster, they will be okay. They will be more than okay. The only question is how long is Reed going to be able to continue to coach? Because he's approaching retirement age. He's been around for a long time. I wish he'd have got Mahomes earlier, but it is what it is. That's the only question. But everybody's saying the dynasty's over. Not so fast. Because you got the MJ of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. But unfortunately this year they're done. Got handed to the I said the Minnesota. What is up with me putting the wrong team name on there? Ignore that, y'all. Y'all know it's the Texans. I was about to be like, wow, my first live stream without any mistakes. I deserve an explosion for that. Give me some booze too. Yeah, I know. But it ain't about me. It's about the Texans and the Chiefs. The Texans did what they had to do. Their defense is very, very intense. One of the top defenses in the league. And that could really take them far in the playoffs, even though the AFC is very crowded. And unfortunately, the Chiefs, y'all got to get some rest. So anyway, thank y'all for joining my live stream. I'll probably see y'all either tonight or tomorrow morning to recap Monday Night Football. Hope y'all have a good Monday, good rest of the week, and I'll see you guys later.